He had never believed in hauntings, never given thought to things that watched from corners or shifted in mirrors, and certainly not to shapes in the dark, until the night he opened his eyes and saw something pressed high against the ceiling, crouched impossibly still in the top corner of the room where the wall met the plaster in a seam too narrow for even a cat to balance, let alone the elongated silhouette of what looked, in shape and stillness, like a man folded into angles the body should not endure. It was not the kind of moment that screams for attention. There was no loud noise, no crash, no sudden temperature drop, just the undeniable presence of a figure tucked above his bed, unmoving, watching. He had frozen beneath the covers, not because he couldn't move but because some part of him, ancient and unquestioning, understood that movement would not help, that acknowledging it beyond seeing might make it real in ways it had not yet chosen. The figure did not twitch, did not breathe visibly, did not alter its posture, and yet the silence that wrapped around it was too dense, too focused, as if the air itself deferred to its presence. He stared at it for what felt like an hour, and then blinked. When he opened his eyes again, the corner was empty. He tried to dismiss it the next morning, told himself it had been a waking dream, some half-conscious hallucination layered over the stress of moving into a new apartment, a place too bare, too quiet, too unfamiliar. The bedroom had high ceilings and plain white walls that offered no distraction from the silence, and the light switch was on the far side of the room, so most nights he climbed into bed in partial darkness, the shadows settling like dust into corners he didn't always look at. But now, he began glancing upward as he lay down, just for a second, just to be sure. And on the third night, it was there again. This time, he didn't freeze. He simply stared, cold and alert, heart steady in that strange way fear can sometimes demand, not racing, but slow, measured, careful. The silhouette had not changed. It was still crouched in the upper corner, knees bent outward at angles too sharp for bone, arms draped downward but touching nothing, head slightly tilted as if listening to the room rather than watching it. It still didn't move. But something in the posture felt aware. He turned on the lamp slowly, avoiding sudden motion, and as the light filled the room, the shadow dissolved, not into smoke or mist or movement, but into absence, as if it had never been there at all. He stood on the bed, checked the corner, ran his hand along the plaster. Nothing. No marks, no discoloration, no sign of weight. Still, he didn't sleep. The next morning, he noticed a thin red line across the left side of his chest, a shallow scratch, not long, not deep, but fresh. He couldn't remember injuring himself, couldn't find anything sharp on the sheets, nothing near the bed frame, and the line was too clean to be accidental. He ignored it, then bandaged it when it bled through his shirt at work. But 2 days later, there were 3 more. Parallel. Curved slightly. As if placed. And that night, when he turned off the light and let the dark settle across the ceiling like water, the silhouette returned. Waiting. Crouched. Closer to the bed than before. He stopped turning off the lights completely, not out of fear in the traditional sense, but because darkness no longer obeyed him. It had become something denser, something conscious, something that arrived not simply when the bulb flickered out but when silence deepened enough to hold weight, when stillness ceased to be a condition and instead became a force. The ceiling, once ignored in the ordinary geometry of the room, had become the most important surface in his life, not because it did anything, but because it now held someone.